Hi there again, my grade 6 achievers. It's time for yet another revision session. Today, we will be looking at expository writing, where we re-examine the rules and guidelines to help us in general on how to write an expository essay. But for now, it's important for the upcoming NGSA examinations. We will be trying to better understand the structure of the language paper 2 and more specifically select our topic and understanding the task given in the scenario. For the language paper 2, always remember that you are only required to choose one scenario to write on. Remember, your writing could be either descriptive, narrative, or expository based on the scenario which you choose. Also, you must remember that there is a special section where you could choose a scenario to write a letter, which could either be a formal or friendly letter. As I mentioned earlier, in this session, we will be examining various scenarios linked to expository writing. It is important to note that the scenarios linked to expository writing are usually asking you to state how you do or make something. It can also be looked at as process writing. Expository writing explains, defines, describes, informs, clarifies, but more so it instructs on how to complete a process or to get a finished product. This type of writing can include essays, newspapers and magazine articles, instruction manuals, textbooks, encyclopedia articles, and other forms of writing, so long as they seek to explain a process. Remember, when we write expository essays or compositions, as we may want to say, we have to use transitional words or phrases to connect the sentences or paragraphs so that they flow smoothly. Some of those transitional words and phrases are as, in, on, by, next, first, second, third, while, then, at first, eventually, after that, at the same time, the next step. An expository composition includes a topic sentence, body sentences, and concluding sentence. When planning to do an expository writing piece, make sure to remember to state the steps, materials, and details of the process. A process essay is written either to explain how something works or to give guidance to the reader through the process of completing a particular task. Example, how to write a book review. It has to follow an order. The topic sentences identifies the process that you are going to go through in a very detailed manner. Now, for example, making a cheese sandwich is easy once you know the steps. Write a composition explaining how you made a cheese sandwich for your snack. In the body sentences, that will include the exact details for each step so that your audience or your reader would not make a mistake if they want to try to make a cheese sandwich. Be sure to include all the important details. Make sure your steps are in order. Use your transitional words. Example, first, next, then, finally. Now, you have to also remember that before they start making anything, they will need to know all the materials that are needed. So you have to include that before you start giving the steps. Another example when we're looking at body sentences may be, cut the edges of the bread off using a knife. Remember, you are making a cheese sandwich. So this might be one of the steps, which would be one of the body sentences. The concluding sentence makes a comment on the process. It can also issue a caution that you should take while you are going through the process. Now let's examine a few scenarios and try to determine the focus of an expository essay. Imagine that you are entertaining a friend on a rainy day. What indoor game or activity do you think the child could learn? Write the instructions for the game or activity. Write the instructions for doing a science experiment that you have done before. Include materials and safety information. You recently paid a visit to an Amerindian village where you were taught to make a traditional dish. Write a composition in which you explain to your friends how to prepare this dish. Remember to include all the steps. Now, if you look at that clearly, you will see that it says, remember to include all the steps. The word steps there gives you a clue that this has to be an expository writing piece. You have to remember also that not very often do you actually know how to do it, but sometimes you might have seen someone else doing it, so you can also transfer that experience to your own. So do not allow this to become a mental block for you. If you see that, you may want to write about it, but you have never tried. Maybe, as I said, you would have seen someone do it, so you can transfer that experience to yourself. The next scenario, write a composition on my favorite dish. In your composition, say how the dish is prepared. Again, for something like this, you're going to cook. So in order to cook, you know that you will need, yes, your ingredients. So always remember that before you start giving the steps or instructions, that you need to list your ingredients or items that will be needed to complete the task. It is your aunt's birthday and your cousins want to bake her a cake. Write a composition telling your cousins the steps on how to bake a cake. Now this can be pretty fun and simple. Easter is coming up. Write a composition explaining how you would make your kite this Easter. Last August vacation, you had a lemonade stand. This year, your best friend wants to sell lemonade too. Write a composition stating the steps on how you made your lemonade last August vacation. Now, in this, you would realize that it's saying that you are writing a composition while you are stating the steps on how you make something. It also before that says that this year, your best friend wants to sell lemonade. So you are actually giving the information to your best friend. So you have to be careful right there to understand that you are giving these instructions to someone specific. So in a case like this, you will need to mention a name in your writing task. Next scenario. Think about the first time you made fruit juice. Write how you made your fruit juice. Explain each of the steps that you must follow in order to make the perfect fruit juice. You have been invited to a picnic. Explain the steps on how you would make cheese sandwich to take to the picnic. A stranger stopped and asked you for directions to get to the library. Explain the directions that you would give to him or her. Now, in this last scenario, you would realize that it's a little different from the ones we've done before. In this, you're actually giving directions, meaning that you're giving the person oral directions. You do not necessarily need a list of materials or ingredients, but you have to explain how to get to a specific location. So you need to be careful with this scenario or with any similar scenario where you are asked to give directions to find a particular place or location, because there might be a few other words other than the regular words we would use, Like if we're making something, we know that we would need certain utensils and certain similar materials. However, when given instructions, you might want to use words like walk and turn and go up or go down, okay? Or look for a sign or something like that. So you have to be careful when you are giving these instructions. Now, the key thing to look for when you are addressing an expository task is to see if it is asking you to give instructions or directions. Then try to do your plan by outlining the format of the expository piece with the relevant information. Another important thing to note is the tense of your writing. Very often in the scenario, it will indicate to you that it is something that has happened before, and therefore you would realize that your writing should have the use of past tense. It can also be that something that you intend to do in the future. So you should be using future tense. So you have to be careful when you are reading the scenario. You need to ensure that you understand the task fully, and that would include as well the tense that you use to write. Now remember that an expository composition or expository writing includes a topic sentence, and in that you are saying what is it the task or the instructions will be based on. Then you have your body sentences in which you give the entire details or the steps to complete that process or to find a location that you are giving directions for. You have your concluding sentence, which always wraps up your writing piece. It could also express how you feel about the entire process and what you expect from the person that you are actually giving these instructions to. Remember, when planning an expository writing piece, make sure to state the steps, materials, and the details. Details are very, very important because you want to ensure that when the person is finished, that they could have the best results or the results that you would have had when you did it. Don't forget to use your transitional words in your body. Your transitional words will help the persons to know what is done first, what is done second, what is done lastly. Well, boys and girls, I hope that you were paying attention to the lesson. It is very important that you know and understand what the question or task entails you to do. Remember, in the paper too, it is only one scenario you have to choose to write on. It can either be from the section A or the section B. And for either of the section, your writing style could be that of descriptive, narrative, expository, or persuasive. Remember, the more you write, the better you become. So never stop writing. Continue to practice, practice, practice. As always, I am Miss Shamsuddin saying, see you next time.